Welcome to the podcast series The New Student Pharmacist, where we discuss chemistry and pharmacy, as well as leaders in pharmacy careers, community, and chemistry and pharmacy research. We encourage you to support the work we are doing and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts by subscribing for free. Note, the views on the podcast represent those of my guest and I.
Purpose of these episodes not at all for advice or medical suggestions. These are aimed to provide support to peer pharmacists in training in educational and intellectually stimulating ways. Again, these are not at all for medical advice or medical suggestions. Please see your local board and state-certified health professional. The views of this podcast represent those of my guests and I.
Note, the views of this podcast represent those of my guest, S, and I note, purpose of these episodes not at all, for advice or medical suggestions. These are aimed to provide support for peer pharmacists in training in educational and intellectually stimulating ways. Again, these are not at all for medical advice, or for medical suggestions. Please see your local state and board certified physician, PA or NP, and pharmacist for medical advice and suggestions. 1 Polyethylene glycol, Golightly, Nulli-Telli, Movi-Prep, Planview. Question: what is the common purpose of polyethylene glycol brands like Golightly and Nulli-Telli? Mnemonic: Golightly for go lightly, implying its use in colonoscopy prep to go easily. Simile: taking Golightly is like turning on a water tap inside your colon, it flushes everything out smoothly. 2 Potassium chloride, Chlorcon. Question: how does Chlorcon help in managing potassium levels? Mnemonic: Chlorcon keeps K, potassium, in control. Simile: Chlorcon acts like a bouncer at the cell membranes club, only letting the right amount of potassium ions in or out to maintain balance. 3 Potassium iodide, SSKI, IOSAT, Thyrosafe. Question: when would you use SSKI or IOSAT? Mnemonic: iodide for inside protection, protecting the thyroid from radiation. Simile: using potassium iodide during radiation exposure is like putting a shield around your thyroid gland. 4 Pramipexole, Mirapex. Question: what conditions does Pramipexole, Mirapex, treat? Mnemonic: Prami Parkinson and restless legs. Simile: Mirapex for Parkinson's is like oil for a squeaky door hinge, it smoothens the movement. 5 Prasugrel, Efficient. Question: how does Efficient prevent blood clots after stent placement? Mnemonic: Prasugrel prevents platelet pile-up. Simile: taking Efficient is like having a traffic controller inside your blood vessels, keeping platelets flowing smoothly without clumping. 6 Pravastatin, Pravachol. Question: what role does Pravachol play in managing cholesterol? Mnemonic: Pravastatin paves the arteries clear. Simile: Pravachol cleaning your arteries is like a street sweeper clearing away leaves, it keeps the path clear of cholesterol debris. 7 Prednisolone oral, Orapred, Pediapred. Question: for which conditions might a doctor prescribe Orapred or Pediapred? Mnemonic: Prednisolone for puffing down inflammation. Simile: using prednisolone is like calming a stormy sea inside your body, it soothes the waves of inflammation. 8 Prednisone, Deltasone. Question: what are the diverse uses of prednisone, deltasone? Mnemonic, prednisone. Sone sounds like soothe for inflammation. Simile, taking deltasone for inflammation is like putting out a fire with a powerful hose, it quickly douses the flames. 9. Pregabalin, Lyrica. Question, how does Lyrica ease nerve pain or prevent seizures? Mnemonic, pregabalin plays the pain away. Simile, Lyrica managing nerve pain is like a soothing melody for frayed nerves, calming the erratic electrical impulses. 10. Prenatal vitamin, Precare, Prenexa. Question, why are Precare or Prenexa recommended during pregnancy? Mnemonic, prenatal vitamins for next generation care. Simile, taking prenatal vitamins is like preparing the soil with the best nutrients before planting a seed, ensuring a healthy start for the baby. 11. Prochlorperazine, Compazine. Question, in what situation might Compazine be prescribed? Mnemonic, prochlorperazine prevents puking. Simile, Compazine for nausea is like a strong wind keeping the sea waves, your stomach contents, calm. 12. Progesterone, Prometrium. Question, what is the therapeutic use of prometrium in women's health? Mnemonic, progesterone for pregnancy support and protection. Simile, progesterone in reproductive health acts like a gardener, ensuring the soil, uterine lining, is just right for the seed, embryo. 13. Promethazine, Phenergan. Question, how does Phenergan combat nausea and vomiting? Mnemonic, promethazine for peaceful stomach. Simile, taking Phenergan for nausea is like having a calming presence in your stomach, keeping the turmoil at bay. 14. Propranolol, Inderal. Question, what conditions does Inderal help manage? Mnemonic, propranolol for pressure, pounding heart, and prevention of migraines. Simile, using Inderal for high blood pressure is like adding a regulator to a high-pressure gas line, keeping the flow steady and safe. 15. Quishapine, Seroquel. Question, when might a patient be prescribed Seroquel? Mnemonic, Quishapine quiets the mind. Simile, Seroquel for bipolar disorder or schizophrenia is like a night watchman, keeping the mind's chaos at bay while the world sleeps. 16. Quinapril, Acupril. Question, how does Acupril work in managing hypertension? Mnemonic, Quinapril quiets the arteries. Simile, taking Acupril for high blood pressure is like turning down the dial on a pressure cooker, preventing it from whistling. 17. Rabeprazole, Asapex. Question, what is Asapex used for in GI disorders? Mnemonic, Rabeprazole rabbits away acid. Simile, using Asapex for GERD is like putting a lid on a pot of boiling water, preventing the steam, acid, from escaping. 18. Raloxifene, Evista. Question, why is Evista prescribed for postmenopausal women? Mnemonic, raloxifene for rebuilding bones. Simile, taking Evista for osteoporosis is like adding steel reinforcements to a weakening concrete structure, making the bones stronger. 19. Raltegravir, Isentress. Question, in which condition is Isentress a key medication? Mnemonic, Raltegravir rallies against HIV. Simile, Isentress in HIV therapy is like a gatekeeper, blocking unwanted intruders, HIV, from entering and multiplying in the cells. 20. Ramipril, Altase. Question, what is the main benefit of taking Altase? Mnemonic, Ramipril ramps down pressure. Simile, Altase for heart health is like a gentle downhill slope for a cyclist, making the journey smoother and less strenuous on the heart. 21. Ranelazine, Ranexa. Question, how does Ranexa help patients with chronic angina? Mnemonic, Ranelazine ransacks angina. Simile, Ranexa for angina is like a buffer, absorbing the shock and stress on the heart, providing relief from pain. 22. Repaglinide, Prandin. Question, when is Prandin prescribed in diabetes management? Mnemonic, Repaglinide reigns in sugar. Simile, Prandin in type 2 diabetes is like a strict teacher in a rowdy classroom, quickly bringing high blood sugar levels into line. 23. Rifaximin, Xifaxan. Question, what makes Xifaxan effective in treating IBS without constipation? Mnemonic, Rifaximin, relaxing the intestinal flux. Simile, Xifaxan for IBS is like a peacekeeper in a turbulent area, bringing order and relief to the digestive tract. 24 Risdronate, Actinol, Adelvia. Question: how does Actinol combat osteoporosis? Mnemonic: Risdronate rises to protect bones. Simile: Actinol in bone health is like a construction crew, constantly working to repair and strengthen the skeletal framework. 25 Risperidone, Risperdal. Question: what is the role of Risperdal in psychiatric care? Mnemonic: Risperidone respite for the mind. Simile: Risperdal for schizophrenia is like a mediator, bringing harmony to the conflicting voices and thoughts within the mind. 26 Rivaroxaban, Xarelto. Question: what is the key advantage of using Xarelto in blood clot prevention? Mnemonic: Rivaroxaban rivers flow freely. Simile: Xarelto in preventing blood clots is like a skilled navigator, ensuring the blood flows smoothly through the body's waterways without blockage. 27 Rizatriptan, Maxalt. Question: how does Maxalt provide relief during a migraine attack? Mnemonic: Rizatriptan raises migraines. Simile: taking Maxalt during a migraine is like extinguishing a blazing headache with a bucket of soothing, cool water. 28 Ropinirole, Requip. Question: why is Requip used in Parkinson's disease treatment? Mnemonic: Ropinirole rolls away tremors. Simile: Requip for Parkinson's is like oiling a rusty, creaky gate, allowing it to swing open smoothly without shakes or tremors. 29 Rosuvastatin, Crestor, Isalar. Question: what makes Crestor effective in managing cholesterol? Mnemonic: Rosuvastatin roots out bad cholesterol. Simile: Crestor in lipid management is like a filter, sifting out unwanted cholesterol and keeping the bloodstream clean. 30 Rotavirus vaccine, Rotarix, Rotatec. Question: why is the rotavirus vaccine crucial in infant care? Mnemonic: Rotavirus vaccine, rotating away from gastroenteritis. Simile: the rotavirus vaccine for infants is like a shield, guarding the young ones from the stormy seas of viral gastroenteritis. Continuing on drugs used for cardiac arrhythmias today, we embark on an exploration of the pharmacological landscape that defines the management of cardiac arrhythmias, a subject as intricate as it is crucial to our understanding of cardiovascular therapeutics. Our journey will traverse the mechanisms and clinical applications of various antiarrhythmic drugs, demystifying the complex interplay between these agents and the cardiac rhythm they seek to regulate. We begin with Class 1A antiarrhythmics, which include procainamide, quinidine, and disopyramide. These agents are known for their dual blockade of sodium, INA, and potassium, IKR, channels, a characteristic that underscores their role in modifying the cardiac action potential. Procainamide, for instance, exemplifies this class's action by not only inhibiting sodium influx but also by a secondary blockade of potassium efflux, thus affecting both depolarization and repolarization phases of the cardiac cycle. Quinidine, though sharing a similar mechanism, is marked by its additional adverse effects, including cinchonism and the risk of torsades de pointes, rendering it a less favored option in contemporary practice. Disopyramide, with its significant antimuscarinic effects, warrants cautious use, especially in patients at risk of heart failure. Transitioning to Class 1B, we encounter lidocaine and mexaletine, agents that primarily inhibit sodium channels. Lidocaine, with its amide local anesthetic properties, stands out for its selective use in ventricular arrhythmias, particularly in acute settings, given its rapid onset and efficacy in ischemic heart tissue. Mexaletine, an oral analog of lidocaine, extends the therapeutic reach of this class to chronic management of not only arrhythmias but also neuropathic pain conditions. Class 1C antiarrhythmics, represented by flecainide and propafenone, offer a potent sodium channel blockade. Flecainide, in particular, is notable for its efficacy in supraventricular arrhythmias, albeit with a cautionary note on its use in patients with structural heart disease due to proarrhythmic risks. Propafenone, with its additional weak beta-blocking effects, further illustrates the diversity within this class, necessitating a tailored approach to patient selection and monitoring. The narrative then shifts to Class 2, the beta blockers, with propranolol and esmolol serving as archetypes. These agents, through beta-adrenergic blockade, reduce sympathetic influence on the heart, thereby addressing arrhythmias with a sympathetic component. Esmolol, with its short-acting, intravenous profile, finds its niche in acute settings, offering a testament to the versatility and adaptability of beta blockers in arrhythmia management. As we delve into Class 3 antiarrhythmics, we encounter a spectrum of agents from amiodarone to vernicallant, each with a unique profile. Amiodarone, with its extensive effects on potassium, sodium, and calcium channels, as well as beta-adrenergic receptors, epitomizes the multifaceted approach to arrhythmia management, albeit with a significant burden of adverse effects. Sotalol, blending beta-blocking with potassium channel blockade, and doflide, a pure IKR blocker, further exemplify the class's strategic targeting of repolarization. Vernicallant, though investigational in some regions, highlights ongoing efforts to refine atrial-selective therapeutic options. The journey concludes with Class 4, the calcium channel blockers, where verapamil and diltiazem reign. By inhibiting L-type calcium channels, these agents decelerate conduction through the atrioventricular node, an effect paramount in controlling ventricular rate in conditions such as atrial fibrillation. This exploration, though far from exhaustive, illuminates the intricate tapestry of antiarrhythmic therapy. It underscores the imperative of individualized treatment, informed by an in-depth understanding of drug mechanisms, patient-specific factors, and the dynamic nature of cardiac arrhythmias. As we continue to navigate this evolving landscape, let us remain steadfast in our commitment to evidence-based practice, patient safety, and the relentless pursuit of therapeutic excellence in the realm of cardiac arrhythmias. 1. Which drugs are Class 1A? Procainamide, quinidine, dispiramide. 2. What is the mechanism of action of procainamide? INA, primary, and IKR, secondary, blockade, sodium and potassium channel blockade. 3. What is the mechanism of action of quinidine? Similar to procainamide but more toxic, cinchonism, torsades, rarely used in arrhythmias. 4. What is the mechanism of action of disopira? Similar to procainamide mid, but significant antimuscarinic effects, may precipitate heart failure. 5. Which drugs are Class 1B? Lidocaine, mexaletine. 6. What is the mechanism of action of lidocaine? Sodium channel, INA, blockade. 7. What is the mechanism of action of mexaletine? Orally active congener of lidocaine, used in ventricular arrhythmias, chronic pain syndromes. 8. Which drugs are Class 1C? Flecainide, propafenone. 9. What is the mechanism of action of flecainide? Sodium channel, INA, blockade. 10. What is the mechanism of action of orally active, weak propafenone? B. Blocking activity, supraventricular arrhythmiacyl hepatic metabolism. / drugs used for cardiac arrhythmias. 11. Which drugs are Class 2? 12. What is the mechanism of action of propranolol? Propranolol, esmolol, B. Adrenoceptor blockade. 13. What is the mechanism of action of esmolol? Short-acting, 4 only, used for intraoperative and other acute arrhythmias. 14. Which drugs are Class 3? Amiodarone, doflide, sotalol, ibutylide, dronedarone, vernicallant. 15. What is the mechanism of action of amiodarone? Blocks IKR, INA, ICAL channels, B. adrenoceptors. 16. What is the mechanism of action of doflide? IKR block, potassium channel blocker. 17. What is the mechanism of action of sotalol? B. adrenergic and IKR blocker, direct action potential prolongation properties, use for ventricular arrhythmias, atrial fibrillation. 18. What is the mechanism of action of ibutylide? Potassium channel blocker, may activate inward current, for use for conversion in atrial flutter and fibrillation. 19. What is the mechanism of action of dronedarone? Amiodarone derivative, multi-channel actions, reduces mortality in patients with atrial fibrillation. 20. What is the mechanism of action of vernicallant? Investigational in the USA, multi-channel actions in atria, prolongs atrial refractoriness, effective in cardioversion of atrial flutter and atrial fibrillation. 21. Which drugs are class 4? Verapamil diltiazem. 22. What is the mechanism of action? Verapamil calcium channel, ICAL type, blockade. 23. What is the mechanism of action of diltiazem? Similar to verapamil. 24. Which drugs are miscellaneous? Adenosine, magnesium, potassium. 25. What is the mechanism of action of adenosine? Activates inward rectifier, it blocks ICA. 26. What is the mechanism of action of magnesium? Poorly understood, interacts with Na+/K+ ADPase, K and Ca2+ channels. 27. What is the mechanism of action of potassium? Increases K and permeability, K and currents. 28. Which drugs are sodium channel blockers? Disopyramide, flecainide, lidocaine, mexaletine, procainamide, propafenone, quinidine sulfate, 83% quinidine base, drugs used for cardiac arrhythmias. Quinidine gluconate, 62% quinidine base, quinidine polygalacturonate, 60% quinidine base. 29. What is the brand name of disopyramide? Norpace, Norpace CR30. What is the generic name of Norpace? Norpace disopyramide CR. 31. What is the brand name of flecainide? Tambicor. 32. What is the generic name of Tambicor? Flecainide. 33. What is the brand name of lidocaine? Xylocaine. 34. What is the generic name of xylocaine? Lidocaine. 35. What is the brand name of mexaletine? Mexidil. 36. What is the generic name of mexidil? Mexaletine. 37. What is the brand name of procainamide? Pronestil, Procan SR. 38. What is the generic name of Pronestil, procainamide Can SR? 39. What is the brand name of propafenone? Rhythmol. 40. What is the generic name of Rhythmol? Propafenone. 41. What is the brand name of quinidine polygalacturonate? Cardioquin. 42. What is the generic name of Cardioquin? Quinidine polygalacturonate. 43. Which drugs are beta blockers? Acebutolol, esmolol, propranolol, drugs used for cardiac arrhythmias. 44. What is the brand name of acebutolol? Sectrol. 45. What is the generic name of Sectrol? Acebutolol. 46. What is the brand name of esmolol? Brevibloc. 47. What is the generic name of Brevibloc? Esmolol. 48. What is the brand name of propranolol? Inderol. 49. What is the generic name of Inderol? Propranolol. 50. Which drugs are action potential prolonging agents? Amiodarone, doftlide, dronedarone, ibutylide, sodalol. 51. What is the brand name of amiodarone? Cordarone. 52. What is the generic name of cordarone? Amiodarone. 53. What is the brand name of doftlide? Tococin. 54. What is the generic name of tococin? Doftlide. 55. What is the brand name of dronedarone? Multake. 56. What is the generic name of Multake? Dronedarone. 57. What is the brand name of ibutylide? Corvert. 58. What is the generic name of Corvert? Ibutylide. 59. What is the brand name of Sodalol? Betapase. 60. What is the generic name of Betapase? Sodalol. 61. Which drugs are calcium channel blockers? Diltiazem, verapamil, drugs used for cardiac arrhythmias. 62. What is the brand name of diltiazem? Cardizem. 63. What is the generic name of cardizem? Diltiazem. 64. What is the brand name of verapamil? Calin, isoptin. 65. What is the generic name of Calin, isoptin? Verapamil. 66. What is the brand name of adenosine? Adenocard. 67. What is the generic name of adenocard? Adenosine, drugs used for hypertension in the management of hypertension, a variety of drug classes are utilized to target different pathways involved in blood pressure regulation. This lecture will focus on these drugs, their mechanisms of action, and their classifications. Diuretics thiazides such as hydrochlorothiazide and chlorthalidone work by blocking the Na/Cl transporter in the renal distal convoluted tubule, reducing sodium and water reabsorption, and thus lowering blood pressure. Loop diuretics like furosemide act on the Na/K/2Cl transporter in the renal loop of Henle, leading to significant diuresis and natriuresis. Spironolactone and eplerenone, classified as potassium-sparing diuretics, block the aldosterone receptor in the renal collecting tubule, conserving potassium while excreting sodium and water. Angiotensin-converting enzyme, ACE, inhibitors captopril, among other ACE inhibitors, inhibits the angiotensin-converting enzyme, reducing the production of angiotensin II, a potent vasoconstrictor, and thereby lowering blood pressure. Angiotensin receptor blockers, ARBs, losartan and its counterparts block the AT1 angiotensin receptors, preventing the action of angiotensin II and leading to vasodilation. Renin inhibitors aliskiren, Texurna, directly inhibits the activity of renin, an enzyme involved in the initial step of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, RAAS, reducing angiotensin I and II levels. Sympathoplegics, centrally acting clonidine and methyl-dopa activate two adrenoceptors, leading to reduced sympathetic outflow from the central nervous system and decreased peripheral resistance. Sympathetic nerve terminal blockers reserpine blocks the vesicular amine transporter in noradrenergic nerves, depleting neurotransmitter stores, and reducing sympathetic tone. Alpha blockers prazosin, terazosin, and doxazosin selectively block 1 adrenoceptors, leading to vasodilation and reduced blood pressure. Beta blockers like metoprolol, carvedilol, and nebivolol block 1 receptors, reducing heart rate and cardiac output. Carvedilol also blocks alpha receptors, and nebivolol induces nitric oxide release, contributing to its antihypertensive effects. Vasodilators verapamil and diltiazem block L-type calcium channels, leading to vasodilation. Nifedipine, amlodipine, and other dihydropyridines specifically target vascular calcium channels. Hydralazine induces nitric oxide release, and minoxidil's metabolite opens K channels in vascular smooth muscle, both resulting in vasodilation. Parenteral agents nitroprusside, phenoldopam, diazoxide, and labetalol are used in acute settings. Nitroprusside releases nitric oxide, phenoldopam activates D1 receptors, diazoxide opens K channels, and labetalol acts as an alpha and beta blocker. Calcium channel blockers, CCBs like amlodipine, clevidipine, diltiazem, felodipine, isradipine, nicardipine, nifedipine, nisoldipine, and verapamil block calcium influx into vascular smooth muscle cells, causing vasodilation and reducing blood pressure. In conclusion, the pharmacological management of hypertension involves a multifaceted approach targeting various pathways. Understanding the mechanisms of action of these drugs is crucial for optimizing therapeutic outcomes and managing potential side effects. 1. Which drugs are diuretics, thiazides, hydrochlorothiazide and chlorthalidone loop diuretics, furosemide, spironolactone and eplerenone 2. What is the mechanism of action of thiazides, hydrochlorothiazide and chlorthalidone, block Na/Cl transporter in renal distal convoluted tubule 3. What is the mechanism of action of loop diuretics, furosemide, block Na/K/2Cl transporter in renal loop of Henle 4? What is the mechanism of spironolactone and eplerenone, block aldosterone receptor in renal collecting tubule 5? Which drugs are angiotensin converting enzyme, ACE, inhibitors, captopril, and many others? 6. What is the mechanism of action of captopril, inhibit angiotensin converting enzyme 7? Which drugs are angiotensin receptor blockers, losartan, and many others? 8. What is the mechanism of action of losartan, block AT1 angiotensin receptors 9? Which drugs are renin inhibitors? 1. Aliskiren, Texurna 10. What is the mechanism of action of aliskiren? Inhibits enzyme activity of renin 11. Which drugs are sympathoplegics? Centrally acting, clonidine and methyl-dopa 12. What is the mechanism of action of clonidine and methyl-dopa? Activate A2 adrenoceptors 13. Which drugs are sympathetic nerve terminal blockers? Reserpine 14. What is the mechanism of action of reserpine? Blocks vesicular amine transporter in noradrenergic nerves and depletes transmitter stores 15. What is the mechanism of action of guanethidine and guanadrel? Interferes with amine release and replaces norepinephrine in vesicles 16. Which drugs are alpha blockers? Prazosin, terazosin, doxazosin 17. What is the mechanism of action of prazosin, terazosin, and doxazosin? Selectively block A1 adrenoceptors 18. Which drugs are beta blockers? Metoprolol, others. Carvedilol, nebivolol. Drugs used for hypertension: propranolol, metoprolol, and atenolol 19. What is the mechanism of metoprolol, carvedilol, and nebivolol? Block B1 receptors. Carvedilol also blocks alpha receptors. Nebivolol also releases nitric oxide 20. What is the mechanism of action of propranolol? Non-selective prototype beta blocker 21. What is the mechanism of action of metoprolol and atenolol? Very widely used B1 selective blockers 22. Which drugs are vasodilators? Verapamil, diltiazem, nifedipine, amlodipine, and other dihydropyridines. Hydralazine, minoxidil 23. What is the mechanism of action of verapamil and diltiazem? Non-selective block of L-type calcium channels 24. What is the mechanism of action of nifedipine, amlodipine, and other dihydropyridines? Block vascular calcium channels, cardiac calcium channels 25. What is the mechanism of action of hydralazine? Causes nitric oxide release 26. What is the mechanism of action of minoxidil? Metabolite opens K channels in vascular smooth muscle 27. Which drugs are parenteral agents? Nitroprusside, phenyldopam, diazoxide, labetalol 28. What is the mechanism of action of nitroprusside? Releases nitric oxide 29. What is the mechanism of action of phenyldopam? Activates D1 receptors 30. What is the mechanism of action of diazoxide? Opens K channels 31. What is the mechanism of action of labetalol? Alpha and beta blocker 32. Which drugs are beta adrenoceptor blockers? 1. Acebutolol, Sectrol 2, atenolol, tenormin 3, betaxolol, curlone 4, bisoprolol, zebeta 5, carvedilol, coreg 6, esmolol, breviblock 7, labetalol, normidine and trandate 8, metoprolol, lopressor and toprol XL 9, nadolol, Corguard 10, nebivolol, bistol. Each 2/5 drugs used for hypertension 11, penbutolol, levitol 12, pindolol, viscin 13, propranolol, indirol and indirol LA 14, timolol, blocadrin 33. Which drugs are centrally acting sympathoplegic drugs? 1. Clonidine, catapress and catapress TDS 2, guanabens, whitencine 3, guanfacine, tenix 4, methyl-dopa, methylpate HCl 34. Which drugs are postganglionic sympathetic nerve terminal blockers? 1. Guanadrel, Hylarel 2, guanethidine, ismlin 3, reserpine 35. Which drugs are alpha-1 selective adrenoceptor blockers? 1. Doxazosin, Cardura 2, prazosin, minipress 3, terazosin, Hytrin 36. Which drugs are ganglion blocking agents? 1. Mecamylamine 37. Which drugs are vasodilators used in hypertension? 1. Diazoxide, hyperstat 4 and proglycem 2, phenyldopam, corlopam 3, hydralazine, apreoline 4, minoxidil, lonitin 5, topical, rogaine 6, nitroprusside, nitropress 38. Which drugs are calcium channels blockers? 1. Amlodipine, Norvasc 2, clevidipine, Cleviprex 3, diltiazem, cardizem CD, cardizem SR, and Dilacor XL 4, felodipine, Plendil 5, isradipine, Dinacerc and Dinacerc CR6, nicardipine, Cardine, Cardine SR, and Cardine. 4. 7. Nifedipine, Adalat, Procardia, Adalat CC, and Procardia XL8, Nisoldipine, Sular 9, Verapamil, Calin, Isoptin, Calin SR, and Verilin 39. Which drugs are angiotensin-converting enzyme inhibitors? 1. Benazepril, Lotensin 2, Captopril, Capitan 3, Enalapril, Vasotec and Enalapril Lot 4, Fosinapril, Monorpil 3/5 drugs used for hypertension 5, Lisinopril, Prinival and Zestrol 6, Moaxipril, Univasc 7, Perindopril, Asian 8, Quinapril, Acupril 9, Ramipril, Altase 10, Trandolapril, Mavic 40. Which drugs are angiotensin receptor blockers? 1. Azilisardin, Idarbi 2, Candizardin, Atacan 3, Eprosardin, Tavtin 4, Irbesardin, Avapro 5, Losardin, Cozar 6, Almesardin, Benicar 7, Telmisardin, Micardis 8, Valsardin, Diovan 41. What is the brand name of atenolol? Tenormin 42. What is the generic name of tenormin? Atenolol 43. What is the brand name of bisoprolol? Zebita 44. What is the generic name of Zebita? Bisoprolol 45. What is the brand name of carvedilol? Coreg 46. What is the generic name of Coreg? Carvedilol 47. What is the brand name of labetalol? Normidine and Trandate 48. What is the generic name of Normidine and Trandate? Labetalol 49. What is the brand name of nebivolol? Bistolich 50. What is the generic name of Bistolich? Nebivolol 51. What is the brand name of propranolol? Inderol and Inderol LA 52. What is the generic name of Inderol and Inderol LA? Propranolol 53. What is the brand name of clonidine? Catapress and Catapress TDS 54. What is the generic name of Catapress and Catapress TDS? Clonidine 55. What is the brand name of doxazosin? Cardura 56. What is the generic name of Cardura? Doxazosin 57. What is the brand name of amlodipine? Norvasc 58. What is the generic name of Norvasc? Amlodipine 59. What is the brand name of felodipine? Plendil 60. What is the generic name of Plendil? Felodipine 61. What is the brand name of nifedipine? Adalat, Procardia, Adalat CC, and Procardia XL 62. What is the generic name of Adalat, Procardia, Adalat CC, and Procardia XL? Nifedipine 63. What is the brand name of benazepril? Lotensin 4/5 drugs used for hypertension 64. What is the generic name of Lotensin? Benazepril 65. What is the brand name of enalapril? Vasotec and Enalapril Lot 66. What is the generic name of Vasotec and Enalapril Lot? Enalapril 67. What is the brand name of Fosinapril? Monopril 68. What is the generic name of Monopril? Fosinapril 69. What is the brand name of Quinapril? Acupril 70. What is the generic name of Acupril? Quinapril 71. What is the brand name of Ramipril? Altase 72. What is the generic name of Altase? Ramipril 73. What is the brand name of Candizardin? Atacan 74. What is the generic name of Atacand? Candizardin 75. What is the brand name of Irbesardin? Avapro 76. What is the generic name of Avapro? Irbesardin 77. What is the brand name of Almesardin? Benicar 78. What is the generic name of Benicar? Almesardin 79. What is the brand name of Valsardin? Diovan 80. What is the generic name of Diovan? Valsardin 1. What is the brand name of polyethylene glycol? Golightly, Nulitelli, Moviprep and Plenview 2. What is the generic name of Golightly, Nulitelli, Moviprep and Plenview? Polyethylene glycol 3. What is / are the indications of polyethylene glycol? Golightly, Nulitelli, Moviprep and Plenview? 1. Colonoscopy or barium enema preparation. 2. Constipation. 4. What is the brand name of potassium chloride, Chlorcon 5? What is the generic name of Chlorcon, potassium chloride 6? What is / are the indications of potassium chloride, Chlorcon? 1. Hypokalemia. 2. Hypokalemia, prophylaxis. 7. What is the brand name of potassium iodide, SSKI, IOSAT, and Thyrosafe? 8. What is the generic name of SSKI, IOSAT, and Thyrosafe, potassium iodide? 9. What is / are the indications of potassium iodide, SSKI, IOSAT, and Thyrosafe? 1. Prevention of thyroid dysfunction due to radiation exposure. 2. Expectorant. 10. What is the brand name of pramipexole, Mirapex and Mirapex ER? 11. What is the generic name of Mirapex and Mirapex ER, pramipexole? 12. What is / are the indications of pramipexole, Mirapex and Mirapex ER? 1. Parkinson disease. 2. Restless leg syndrome. 13. What is the brand name of Prasugrel, Effiant? 14. What is the generic name of Effiant, Prasugrel? 15. What is / are the indications of Prasugrel, Effiant? 1. Prevention of thromboembolism after percutaneous coronary intervention. 16. What is the brand name of Pravastatin, Pravachol? 17. What is the generic name of Pravachol, Pravastatin? 18. What is / are the indications of Pravastatin, Pravachol? 1. Cerebrovascular accident, prevention, coronary arteriosclerosis, primary or secondary prevention. 2. Familial hypercholesterolemia. 3. Hyperlipidemia. 19. What is the brand name of prednisolone oral, Orapred and Pediapred? 20. What is the generic name of Orapred and Pediapred, prednisolone oral? 21. What is / are the indications of prednisolone oral, Orapred and Pediapred? 1. Allergic states, e.g., asthma, etc. 2. Dermatologic diseases, e.g., exfoliative erythroderma, etc. 3. Endocrine disorders, e.g., adrenocortical insufficiency, etc. 4. GI diseases, e.g., regional enteritis, ulcerative colitis, etc. 5. Hematologic disorders, e.g., acquired hemolytic anemia, etc. 6. Neoplastic diseases, e.g., palliative management of leukemias and lymphomas, etc. 7. Nervous system, e.g., multiple sclerosis, cerebral edema, etc. 8. Renal diseases, e.g., idiopathic nephrotic syndrome, systemic lupus erythematosus, etc. 9. Respiratory diseases, e.g., idiopathic eosinophilic pneumonia, etc. 10. Rheumatic disorders, e.g., rheumatoid arthritis, etc. 22. What is the brand name of prednisone, Deltasone? 23. What is the generic name of Deltasone, prednisone? 24. What is / are the indications of prednisone, Deltasone? 1. Allergic states, e.g., asthma, etc. 2. Dermatologic diseases, e.g., exfoliative erythroderma, etc. 3. Endocrine disorders, e.g., adrenocortical insufficiency, etc. 4. GI diseases, e.g., regional enteritis, ulcerative colitis, etc. 5. Hematologic disorders, e.g., acquired hemolytic anemia, etc. 6. Neoplastic diseases, e.g., palliative management of leukemias and lymphomas, etc. 7. Nervous system, e.g., multiple sclerosis, cerebral edema, etc. 8. Renal diseases, e.g., idiopathic nephrotic syndrome, systemic lupus erythematosus, etc. 9. Respiratory diseases, e.g., idiopathic eosinophilic pneumonia, etc. 10. Rheumatic disorders, e.g., rheumatoid arthritis, etc. 25. What is the brand name of pregabalin, Lyrica? 26. What is the generic name of Lyrica, pregabalin? 27. What is / are the indications of pregabalin, Lyrica? 1. Neuropathic pain, diabetes associated or spinal cord injury associated 2, fibromyalgia 3, seizures, focal, partial, onset, adjunct 4, post-herpetic neuralgia 28. What is the brand name of prenatal vitamin, Precare and Prenexa 29? What is the generic name of Precare and Prenexa, prenatal vitamin 30? What is / are the indications of prenatal vitamin, Precare and Prenexa? 1. Dietary supplementation during pregnancy 31. What is the brand name of prochlorperazine, Compazine 32? What is the generic name of Compazine, prochlorperazine 33? What is / are the indications of prochlorperazine, Compazine? 1. Nausea and vomiting 34. What is the brand name of progesterone, Prometrium 35? What is the generic name of Prometrium, progesterone 36? What is / are the indications of progesterone, Prometrium? 1. Prevention of estrogen-induced endometrial hyperplasia 2. Secondary physiologic amenorrhea 3. Assisted reproduction for infertile women 37. What is the brand name of promethazine, Phenergan 38? What is the generic name of Phenergan, promethazine 39? What is / are the indications of promethazine, Phenergan? 1. Nausea and vomiting 40. What is the brand name of propranolol, Inderal, Inderal LA and Inderal XL 41? What is the generic name of Inderal, Inderal LA and Inderal XL, propranolol 42? What is / are the indications of propranolol, Inderal, Inderal LA and Inderal XL? 1. Angina pectoris, chronic 2, cardiac dysrhythmia 3, HTN 4, migraine, prophylaxis 43. What is the brand name of quishapine, Seroquel and Seroquel XR 44? What is the generic name of Seroquel and Seroquel XR, quishapine 45? What is / are the indications of quishapine, Seroquel and Seroquel XR? 1. Bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, therapy initiation 2. Bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, maintenance 3. Major depressive disorder, adjunct to antidepressants 46. What is the brand name of Quinapril, Acupril 47? What is the generic name of Acupril, Quinapril 48? What is / are the indications of Quinapril, Acupril? 1. Heart failure 2, HTN 49. What is the brand name of Rabiprazole, Asapex 50? What is the generic name of Asapex, Rabiprazole 51? What is / are the indications of Rabiprazole, Asapex? 1. Peptic ulcer disease 2, H. pylori GI infection 3, gastric hypersecretion 4, GERD, erosive or ulcerative, for symptom control, initial treatment or maintenance 52. What is the brand name of raloxifene, Evista 53? What is the generic name of Evista, raloxifene 54? What is / are the indications of raloxifene, Evista? 1. Breast cancer, invasive, in postmenopausal women at high risk 2. Postmenopausal osteoporosis, prevention or treatment 55. What is the brand name of raltegravir, Isentress 56? What is the generic name of Isentress, raltegravir 57? What is / are the indications of raltegravir, Isentress? 1. Treatment of HIV-1 infection in combination with other antiretroviral agents 58. What is the brand name on Ramipril, Altase 59? What is the generic name of Altase, Ramipril 60? What is / are the indications of Ramipril, Altase? 1. Heart failure post-MI 2, HTN 3, reduce risk of myocardial infarction, stroke, and death from cardiovascular causes 61. What is the brand name of ranolazine, Rainixa 62? What is the generic name of Rainixa, ranolazine 63? What is / are the indications of ranolazine, Rainixa? 1. Chronic angina 64. What is the brand name of repaglinide, Prandin 65? What is the generic name of Prandin, repaglinide 66? What is / are the indications of repaglinide, Prandin? 1. Diabetes mellitus type 2 67. What is the brand name of rifaximin? Xifaxan 68. What is the generic name of Xifaxan? Rifaximin 69. What is / are the indications of rifaximin? Xifaxan. 1. Hepatic encephalopathy. Prevention. 2. Irritable bowel syndrome without constipation. 3. Traveler's diarrhea. 70. What is the brand name of risdronate? Actinol and Adelvia. 71. What is the generic name of Actinol and Adelvia? Risdronate. 72. What is / are the indications of risdronate, Actinol and Adelvia? 1. Osteoporosis, males and postmenopausal women. Prevention and treatment. 2. Paget disease. 73. What is the brand name of risperidone? Risperdal. 74. What is the generic name of Risperdal? Risperidone. 75. What is / are the indications of risperidone? Risperdal. 1. Autistic disorder, irritability. 2. Acute manic or mixed episodes of bipolar I disorder. 3. Schizophrenia. 76. What is the brand name of rivaroxaban? Xarelto. 77. What is the generic name of Xarelto? Rivaroxaban. 78. What is / are the indications of rivaroxaban? Xarelto. 1. Prevention of thromboembolism in patients after orthopedic surgery. 2. Prevention of thromboembolism in patients with non-valvular atrial fibrillation. 3. Treatment and secondary prevention of DVT or pulmonary embolism. 4. Coronary artery disease, stable, or peripheral artery disease. 79. What is the brand name of rizatriptan? Maxalt. 80. What is the generic name of Maxalt? Rizatriptan. 81. What is / are the indications of rizatriptan? Maxalt. 1. Migraine. 82. What is the brand name of ropinirole? Requip and Requip XL. 83. What is the generic name of Requip and Requip XL? Ropinirole. 84. What is / are the indications of ropinirole? Requip and Requip XL? 1. Parkinson disease. 2. Restless legs syndrome. 85. What is the brand name of rosuvastatin? Crestor and Izalar. 86. What is the generic name of Crestor and Izalar? Rosuvastatin. 87. What is / are the indications of rosuvastatin, Crestor and Izalar? 1. Hyperlipidemia, prevention of cardiovascular disease. 2. Familial hypercholesterolemia. 88. What is the brand name of rotavirus vaccine? Rotarix and Rotatec. 89. What is the generic name of Rotarix and Rotatec? Rotavirus vaccine. 90. What is / are the indications of rotavirus vaccine, Rotarix and Rotatec? 1. Prophylaxis of viral gastroenteritis due to rotavirus infection. Polyethylene glycol, Golightly, Nulli-Telli, Moviprep, Plenview. Question: what group of brand names, including Golightly and Moviprep, is polyethylene glycol associated with for bowel preparation? Mnemonic: Go move and plunge with poly to remember Golightly, Moviprep, and Plenview for polyethylene glycol. Simile: polyethylene glycol is like a cleaning wave sweeping through the colon, similar to how a powerful tide cleans the beach. Potassium chloride, Chlorcon. Question: what is the brand name for potassium chloride used in treating hypokalemia? Mnemonic: Chlorcon keeps K, potassium, content to remember its function in treating hypokalemia. Simile: taking potassium chloride is like refilling a salt shaker, it replenishes essential potassium just as salt fills the shaker. Potassium iodide, SSKI, IOSAT, Thyrosafe. Question: which medication, available as SSKI or IOSAT, is used for thyroid protection against radiation? Mnemonic: Safe Thyroid with SSKI, IOSAT to remember Thyrosafe and its purpose. Simile: potassium iodide acting to protect the thyroid from radiation is like an umbrella shielding you from the rain. Pramipexole, Mirapex, Mirapex ER. Question: what is the generic name for Mirapex, used in Parkinson's disease treatment? Mnemonic: Pramipexole in Park, restless evening experience for Mirapex and Mirapex ER in Parkinson's and RLS. Simile: Pramipexole working in the brain is like a calm conductor in an orchestra, ensuring smooth and controlled movements. Prasugrel, Ifiant, Question: What is prasugrel's brand name, used to prevent thromboembolism post-PCI? Mnemonic: prevent clots efficiently with Efficient to remember prasugrel's purpose. Simile: prasugrel is like a peacekeeper in the blood vessels, preventing the aggressive clot formations. Pravastatin, Pravachol. Question: What cholesterol-lowering medication is known as Pravachol? Mnemonic: Pravachol paves the cholesterol down to remember pravastatin's effect. Simile: pravastatin managing cholesterol is like a broom sweeping away unwanted debris, keeping arteries clean. Prednisolone oral, Orapred, Pediapred. Question: For conditions like asthma and allergies, which oral medication might you prescribe from the brands Orapred or Pediapred? Mnemonic: oral prednisolone for pediatric predicaments to remember Orapred and Pediapred. Simile: prednisolone is like a firefighter, quickly addressing and extinguishing the inflammatory responses in the body. Prednisone, Deltasone. Question: Deltasone is the brand name for which anti-inflammatory steroid? Mnemonic: delta force against inflammation to remember prednisone's power. Simile: prednisone calming inflammation is like a mediator in a heated argument, restoring peace and normalcy. Pregabalin, Lyrica. Question: What medication, known as Lyrica, is prescribed for neuropathic pain and fibromyalgia? Mnemonic: lyrically soothe the nerve pain to associate Lyrica with pregabalin. Simile: pregabalin easing nerve pain is like a soothing balm on a painful burn, providing relief and comfort. Prenatal vitamin, Precare, Prenexa. Question: Which vitamins, under the names Precare and Prenexa, are recommended during pregnancy for dietary supplementation? Mnemonic: prenatal care with Precare and Prenexa to emphasize their importance during pregnancy. Simile: taking prenatal vitamins is like laying down a fertile soil, nutrients, for a seed, baby, to grow healthy and strong. Prochlorperazine, Compazine. Question: For severe nausea and vomiting, which medication might be prescribed under the brand Compazine? Mnemonic: combat nausea with Compazine to remember prochlorperazine's use. Simile: prochlorperazine controlling nausea is like a captain steadying a rocky ship, ensuring a smooth sail, relief from nausea. Progesterone, Prometrium. Question: What is the brand name for progesterone used in hormone therapy and fertility assistance? Mnemonic: promote gestation with Prometrium to connect progesterone with its uses. Simile: progesterone in fertility treatments is like a nurturing gardener, providing the right environment for a plant, embryo, to grow. These questions, mnemonics, and similes are designed to aid in the learning and recall of various medications and their brand names related to their indications and mechanisms. Continuing on 1. Polyethylene glycol, Golightly, Nulitelli, Moviprep, Planview. Question: What is the common purpose of polyethylene glycol brands like Golightly and Nulitelli? Mnemonic: Golightly for Golightly, implying its use in colonoscopy prep to go easily. Simile: taking Golightly is like turning on a water tap inside your colon, it flushes everything out smoothly. 2. Potassium chloride, Chlorcon. Question: How does Chlorcon help in managing potassium levels? Mnemonic: Chlorcon keeps potassium, in control. Simile: Chlorcon acts like a bouncer at the cell membranes club, only letting the right amount of potassium ions in or out to maintain balance. 3. Potassium iodide, SSKI, IOSAT, Thyrosafe. Question: When would you use SSKI or IOSAT? Mnemonic: iodide for inside protection, protecting the thyroid from radiation. Simile: using potassium iodide during radiation exposure is like putting a shield around your thyroid gland. 4. Pramipexole, Mirapex. Question: What conditions does Pramipexole, Mirapex, treat? Mnemonic: Parkinson and restless legs. Simile: Mirapex for Parkinson's is like oil for a squeaky door hinge, it smoothens the movement. 5. Prasugrel, Efficient. Question: How does Efficient prevent blood clots after stent placement? Mnemonic: Prasugrel prevents platelet pile-up. Simile, taking Efficient is like having a traffic controller inside your blood vessels, keeping platelets flowing smoothly without clumping. 6. Pravastatin, Pravachol. Question: what role does Pravachol play in managing cholesterol? Mnemonic: Pravastatin paves the arteries clear. Simile, Pravachol cleaning your arteries is like a street sweeper clearing away leaves, it keeps the path clear of cholesterol debris. 7. Prednisolone oral, Orapred, Pediapred. Question: for which conditions might a doctor prescribe Orapred or Pediapred? Mnemonic: Prednisolone for puffing down inflammation. Simile, using prednisolone is like calming a stormy sea inside your body, it soothes the waves of inflammation. 8. Prednisone, Deltasone. Question: what are the diverse uses of prednisone, Deltasone? Mnemonic: Prednisone, sone sounds like soothe for inflammation. Simile, taking Deltasone for inflammation is like putting out a fire with a powerful hose, it quickly douses the flames. 9. Pregabalin, Lyrica. Question: how does Lyrica ease nerve pain or prevent seizures? Mnemonic: Pregabalin plays the pain away. Simile, Lyrica managing nerve pain is like a soothing melody for frayed nerves, calming the erratic electrical impulses. 10. Prenatal vitamin, Precare, Prenexa. Question: why are Precare or Prenexa recommended during pregnancy? Mnemonic: Prenatal vitamins for next generation care. Simile, taking prenatal vitamins is like preparing the soil with the best nutrients before planting a seed, ensuring a healthy start for the baby. 11. Prochlorperazine, Compazine. Question: in what situation might Compazine be prescribed? Mnemonic: Prochlorperazine prevents puking. Simile, Compazine for nausea is like a strong wind keeping the sea waves, your stomach contents, calm. 12. Progesterone, Prometrium. Question: what is the therapeutic use of Prometrium in women's health? Mnemonic: Progesterone for pregnancy support and protection. Simile, progesterone in reproductive health acts like a gardener, ensuring the soil, uterine lining, is just right for the seed, embryo. 13. Promethazine, Phenergan. Question: how does Phenergan combat nausea and vomiting? Mnemonic: Promethazine for peaceful stomach. Simile, taking Phenergan for nausea is like having a calming presence in your stomach, keeping the turmoil at bay. 14. Propranolol, Inderal. Question: what conditions does Inderal help manage? Mnemonic: Propranolol for pressure, pounding heart, and prevention of migraines. Simile, using Inderal for high blood pressure is like adding a regulator to a high-pressure gas line, keeping the flow steady and safe. 15. Quishapine, Seroquel. Question: when might a patient be prescribed Seroquel? Mnemonic: Quishapine quiets the mind. Simile, Seroquel for bipolar disorder or schizophrenia is like a night watchman, keeping the mind's chaos at bay while the world sleeps. 16. Quinapril, Acupril. Question: how does Acupril work in managing hypertension? Mnemonic: Quinapril quiets the arteries. Simile, taking Acupril for high blood pressure is like turning down the dial on a pressure cooker, preventing it from whistling. 17. Rabeprazole, Asapex. Question: what is Asapex used for in GI disorders? Mnemonic: Rabeprazole rabbits away acid. Simile, using Asapex for GERD is like putting a lid on a pot of boiling water, preventing the steam, acid, from escaping. 18. Raloxifene, Evista. Question: why is Evista prescribed for postmenopausal women? Mnemonic: Raloxifene for rebuilding bones. Simile, taking Evista for osteoporosis is like adding steel reinforcements to a weakening concrete structure, making the bones stronger. 19. Raltegravir, Isentress. Question: in which condition is Isentress a key medication? Mnemonic: Raltegravir rallies against HIV. Simile, Isentress in HIV therapy is like a gatekeeper, blocking unwanted intruders, HIV, from entering and multiplying in the cells. 20. Ramipril, Altase. Question: what is the main benefit of taking Altase? Mnemonic: Ramipril ramps down pressure. Simile, Altase for heart health is like a gentle downhill slope for a cyclist, making the journey smoother and less strenuous on the heart. 21 Ranolazine, Rainixa. Question: how does Rainixa help patients with chronic angina? Mnemonic: Ranolazine ransacks angina. Simile: Rainixa for angina is like a buffer, absorbing the shock and stress on the heart, providing relief from pain. 22 Repaglinide, Prandin. Question: when is Prandin prescribed in diabetes management? Mnemonic: Repaglinide reigns in sugar. Simile: Prandin in type 2 diabetes is like a strict teacher in a rowdy classroom, quickly bringing high blood sugar levels into line. 23 Rifaximin, Xifaxan. Question: what makes Xifaxan effective in treating IBS without constipation? Mnemonic: Rifaximin, relaxing the intestinal flux. Simile: Xifaxan for IBS is like a peacekeeper in a turbulent area, bringing order and relief to the digestive tract. 24 Risdronate, Actinol, Adelvia. Question: how does Actinol combat osteoporosis? Mnemonic: Risdronate rises to protect bones. Simile: Actinol in bone health is like a construction crew, constantly working to repair and strengthen the skeletal framework. 25 Risperidone, Risperdal. Question: what is the role of Risperdal in psychiatric care? Mnemonic: Risperidone respite for the mind. Simile: Risperdal for schizophrenia is like a mediator, bringing harmony to the conflicting voices and thoughts within the mind. 26 Rivaroxaban, Xarelto. Question: what is the key advantage of using Xarelto in blood clot prevention? Mnemonic: Rivaroxaban rivers flow freely. Simile: Xarelto in preventing blood clots is like a skilled navigator, ensuring the blood flows smoothly through the body's waterways without blockage. 27 Rizatriptan, Maxalt. Question: how does Maxalt provide relief during a migraine attack? Mnemonic: Rizatriptan raises migraines. Simile: taking Maxalt during a migraine is like extinguishing a blazing headache with a bucket of soothing, cool water. 28 Ropinirole, Requip. Question: why is Requip used in Parkinson's disease treatment? Mnemonic: Ropinirole rolls away tremors. Simile: Requip for Parkinson's is like oiling a rusty, creaky gate, allowing it to swing open smoothly without shakes or tremors. 29 Rosuvastatin, Crestor, Isalar. Question: what makes Crestor effective in managing cholesterol? Mnemonic: Rosuvastatin roots out bad cholesterol. Simile: Crestor in lipid management is like a filter, sifting out unwanted cholesterol and keeping the bloodstream clean. 30 Rotavirus vaccine, Rotarix, Rotatec. Question: why is the rotavirus vaccine crucial in infant care? Mnemonic: Rotavirus vaccine, rotating away from gastroenteritis. Simile: the rotavirus vaccine for infants is like a shield, guarding the young ones from the stormy seas of viral gastroenteritis. Note: the views of this podcast represent those of my guest, S, and I. Note: purpose of these episodes not at all for advice or medical suggestions. These are aimed to provide support for peer pharmacists in training in educational and intellectually stimulating ways. Again, these are not at all for medical advice, or for medical suggestions. Please see your local state and board certified physician, PA or NP, and pharmacist for medical advice and suggestions.
Okay, welcome to the New Student Pharmacist Podcast Experience. We are so glad to have you listening in today. Oh man, again, this is a treat. I get to has the exact same name as me, David Umo. One of my colleagues.
How's it going?
Good, man, good. One of my colleagues and friends from Georgia Tech. I think most of my podcast has been based off, most of it has been based on people I met at Georgia Tech. But let me read his bio quickly. He was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, moved to Atlanta, Georgia in 2013 to continue his higher education studies at Georgia Tech. He graduated from Georgia Tech in 2017 with highest honors, as well as Outstanding ChBE graduating senior, so chemical and graduating senior. He proceeded to start his career in the field of polymers and packaging, specifically working in the flexible packaging industry for 6.5 years now. In his career, he has championed several sustainability initiatives working as a technical leader to make plastics more sustainable. Currently works as a technical project manager for Printpack, working on the product development team to help develop recyclable and sustainable products and packages as they move towards a more circular economy in the specific industry. He has also received his master's degree in analytics from Georgia Tech in 2021. After completing his graduate program, he works full-time now. He's also married. He enjoys spending time with his wife, building his business and brand, as well as teaching about finances. Wow, David, it's so good to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So as we get started, I'm curious to know, given all your trajectory and given your interests, what have been your long-standing interest in the field of science and engineering? Would you mind sharing some of those, and why are you interested in them?
Yeah, my long-standing interest in field of science and engineering. Yeah, so that's a good one. So I'll make a quick joke, and I feel like every Nigerian listening can probably relate to this. But growing up in Nigeria, especially if you've come from a family, like my dad was a lawyer, my mom was in counseling. She studied psychology. She got a master's in guidance counseling. So in my family, literacy and education was important and emphasized. And so you're really only given like 3 viable options: a doctor, engineer, or lawyer, right? So for me, engineer was a viable one because, so my dad was a lawyer and a businessman. So I knew I definitely wanted to go into business, but also wanted to have a career. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess that's a rebellion. I was like, I don't want to do law. And then when it came to being a doctor, when I came to the US, I found out, okay, you have to do your undergrad, then you have to do your medical school, then you have to do your residency, and then you have to do certain things, and then you can become a full practicing surgeon. I was like, okay, that sounds like too much school. So I just like, you know what? I'll pick the only one left, an engineer, right? And so that's how I got into engineering. But obviously, so I ended up in Georgia Tech, studied chemical engineering there. And then when I graduated from Georgia Tech, I went into the industry of plastics, specifically flexible packaging. And it's been fun. I've really got into work on a lot of really big initiatives. Okay. So in my previous company, I got to work on something that it was public news. Curare acquired this company based out in Australia called Plantic, which they basically deal in making thermoplastic starch in packages. So when I worked in my previous company, still there, I got to champion or lead that initiative right before I left in 2020. Okay. And then I joined my current company, Printpack, where I do the same thing, but now I work on basically all PE recyclable products, and there's several other initiatives as well. So one of the cool things that I worked on most recently that I like to highlight is there was this successful promotion with General Mills Go-Gurt brand with thermochromic ink, which was really popular among kids. Yeah, so it changes color basically based on temperature. So I got to work with regulatory and work at our regulatory group and work on a whole bunch of initiatives to essentially bring that product to market and put it within a flexible packaging like Go-Gurt, so kids could interact with the product based on the temperature. And yeah, so that was a huge success. Also, another one too that was recent was General Mills has their Valley cereal bag, which essentially is in an all polyethylene, all PE stand-up pouch now. And so the cool thing is I got to work on is a technical lead for my company and essentially help develop a solution for that. So that was actually my company's first commercial all PE stand-up pouch all PE lay down bag. That was commercial, and that was back in 2022. So I get to work on like really cool for big brands such as General Mills as well, on their sustainable initiatives, and that goes back into whole, like you said during the introduction, circular economy, making plastics and products essentially more recyclable and sustainable. And so that's going from multi-layered plastics, so you could have like PET and polyethylene product, and then trying to essentially develop an all PE, so all polyethylene, so it could be recycled into all polyethylene recycle stream. So essentially just pushing products to be more efficient, less over-engineered, and also making it sustainable. So that's where we get into like the different sustainable governing bodies. But yeah, that's about a summary of my interest.
Okay, yeah, that's good, dude. So I have a follow-up question on that. A lot of people are talking about how I know in some cases they have tax for plastic, like in certain countries they actually tax you for the plastic, and in some cases they're like get rid of plastic. So what's your take on that?
So I think you can't get rid of plastics. Let's address that. So I think there was a company back in the UK. I can't remember the name, but years ago, I think they attempted to get rid of plastics entirely, and so they went into like alternative packaging, and they saw their spoilage dramatically increase in the first month. And so plastics is important, right? So when I approach this discussion, I like to look at it from a very holistic standpoint. We need to first understand that plastics are important to essentially take care of the supply chain. A good example. So let's go back to during COVID, right? And this is not even in the food packaging space, doing toilet paper. Do you know that with toilet paper, the issue wasn't just that there wasn't enough toilet paper. It's also there wasn't enough plastics, that there was not enough plastic available for the toilet paper to package them and keep up with the supply chain. Like there was what we call the bullwhip effect, where because a lot of people were hoarding toilet paper, so there was two issues now with the supply chain there. There was not enough raw material for the toilet paper itself. Also, there wasn't enough plastic, just stretch wrap plastic. So it could be a high density polyethylene plastic that just used to wrap the toilet paper, and there wasn't enough of that. And so what I'll say is that the plastics is important, but then we can frame the conversation around making plastics more sustainable. So for a better global, for a better earth, for a better global economy, really, because also there's an advantage in us having sustainable forms of sourcing materials as well. So like when we get into like pyrolysis and getting into like chemical recycling, mechanical recycling. So all of these are important conversations to be having. So my take on the taxing aspect is it is important because when you're comparing recyclable plastics, so whether it's chemical recycled or mechanically recycled, to virgin, sometimes it is actually more cost effective to produce virgin, because then you have to talk about sourcing and you have to talk about the grade of recycled material that you're sourcing, especially looking at mechanically recycled. With pyrolysis, that's chemically recycled, you don't have to worry as much about that. But for mechanically recycled, then you're worried about the source material and the grade of PE that you're receiving, whether it's, depending on the MRF that you're collecting it from. And so all that to say that there needs to be a way that government essentially incentivizes like flexible packagers to use recycled plastics versus virgin plastics. And that's where you come into the whole virgin plastic tax. So that means, like, for instance, if you're going to produce material, I think they're implementing this in several places in Europe, but if you're going to produce material that would have virgin resin or plastics, then there will be a higher tax versus if you're using material that's mechanically recycled or chemical recycled. And so, but chemical recycling is getting more and more popular. You see the big players in the resin industry investing more and more into chemical recycling facilities and capabilities, because essentially that's the way you can ensure performance of your material with chemically recycled versus mechanically recycled, where you can't guarantee the source material.
So I have a question. I will follow up another question for you. You talk about chemical recycling versus mechanical recycling. So can you give a practical example of that for like a layperson? Would that involve like burning the plastic? What does that involve? Chemical recycling?
Yeah.
Mechanical recycling.
So chemical recycling is pyrolysis. So that's basically taking the plastic from the polymeric level to the monomeric level. So that's like if you're polyethylene, you're taking from polyethylene to ethylene, and then you're recatalyzing it and repolymerizing it, the material. Mechanical recycling is dealing more with so I think the most recent example is that there was a food grade approved like 2 years ago, high density polyethylene. It's a very specific process. The name escapes my mind, but it's essentially taking material, and this is where you get into talk about the source material, but essentially you take material and you mechanically recycle it with a very specific patented process that they have to essentially give out food grade high density. But the issue with mechanically recycling is that you cannot always guarantee performance to match that of the virgin material. Versus with chemical recycling, you typically can.
Okay. So I have a question. How do you maintain balance? How do you maintain integration of your work and your life as you pursue your career interests? What keeps you stable? How do you maintain resiliency when you face obstacles and challenges?
Yeah, faith. Faith is important.
Good.
Faith is probably number one up there. Loved ones, my wife, family. I'm very hyper focused on goals. So it also helps me when it comes to even balancing work and my business that I build outside of my 9 to 5. I feel like being very hyper focused on so for instance with work, something I like to talk about is work can get overwhelming, especially when working on the account and the type of nature of my job is like you're trying to balance and serve customer needs, manage accounts, but also serve as technical leads in several key initiatives. And so things can get very, especially if you're working for bigger companies and brands, things can get overwhelming. But one thing that I like to help keep me like almost hyper focused on what is important is having a relationship with the business unit leader. So I have a very good relationship with my manager in my company, and also the business unit leader for the account that I serve in my company. She was actually my former manager. And I always say, like, I always like to touch base with them, and I ask a very important question, like, okay, especially with the business unit leader, because we have a great relationship, is like, okay, what are the key things? What are the key goals for the business unit this year? She's very transparent, like, okay, these are the key goals. Okay, so these are the key goals and ranked in priority. Here's how much it contributes to the bottom line. Because at the end of the day, I mean, while it's nice to nerd out about polymers and plastics and develop really key things as well for the all PE space, it's important to also recognize that you're there as an employee to contribute and bring value.
Yeah, you have to contribute to the value proposition.
Exactly. And so value proposition boils down to profit and bottom line. And so that's where having a relationship with your business unit leader comes into play. And so understanding what the key big major goals are
of value.
Right, exactly. It helps me really, I guess you could say, blur out the noise, because there's a lot of noise that comes with jobs, but also being focused on what the important key goals are. And that for me has been a major differentiator, because it also makes your work efficient. That's the way I like to think about it, because, you know, human beings were we're human beings, and people who ignore the human and relationship aspect as well in their jobs miss a key part in being a very key contributor to value on whatever team you are. Because think about it, if you lead a team and somebody walks up to you and says, hey David, what are the key goals this year, and like rank them out for me, you almost like they're almost holding you accountable to like give what the key highlights. Have a vision for the organization, or have a vision for even the business unit. Let's not even focus on the entire organization, the business unit that you work for. And if whoever you interacted with comes back and, like, let's say at the end of the fiscal year they're able to hit 4 out of 5 of those goals, and that's all they did. As a business unit leader, you would tend to appreciate their work more, because you know that this was something that we had a communication about, and you can even appreciate the effort because you can tell, like, okay, this person worked intentionally to address some of these obstacles or things that are important to this business unit. And that's a key way for when you're talking about star players in the team or people who really contribute value to the team. That's a key way to put your name in the conversation, because it's like there's a recency effect, so the person remembers, like, this is someone that I had a conversation with about how we can provide value to the business unit, and they delivered. And so the key there is also delivering. I
completely agree with you. The recency effect, you know, I used to remember the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, which you have like a trajectory, which how people forget. But anyway, just to make the point, that's important. Being able to bring value into the spaces. You know, you could talk about bringing value, retaining that value, and also expanding the value for the organization. Then also, on that same principle of value, even when you are admitted as a student, they admit you, not just because of your potential for you to succeed, but for you to bring value to the school.
Exactly.
You know, to keep that in mind, I think that's something that kind of clicked for me later on. You know? To keep that in mind, because the moment you switch into that gear, you not only show up for yourself, but you show up for everyone else on your team or in your department.
Absolutely.
And even go ahead.
And even for the students, I remember when I did research in undergrad, I'll say, like, one of the key things too that really helped, even when I did research for Dr. Lively at Georgia Tech in our ChBE department. And so one of the things that also really helped him keep me on.
Right? With Zeolite?
I'm sorry?
Zeolite, right?
Zeolites, exactly. Yes, correct. So yeah, I worked on zeolites, exactly. So
I remember.
Yeah, so one of the things that really, even after my PURA, so PURA President Undergraduate Research Award, which is something that I won, which essentially paid for my research for a semester, I was able to stay on with the team, and also, like, you know, it was a paid research where he paid me to stay on and keep working for the lab, because it's value. And it's like, you know, I was working on one of the grad students and helping with this project, but also they were able to give me a portion of the grad student's project to take on as my own, because I had shown that, hey, listen, I'm here to provide value, and I'm here to seek out to provide value. And then it's the same thing. I had a conversation with the postdoc, and he was one who essentially connected with the grad student, and that essentially helped me keep earning money while I stayed on during school. So yeah, in whatever space you're in, whether it's in research, whether you're in academia, whether you're in corporate, I think seeking out what is important for whether it's this lab, this group, this business unit, this organization, and it essentially helps you prioritize what is important and what isn't.
I completely agree. And also, the thing you talked about in terms of relationships.
Yeah.
Relationships are very important for your success in the organization. It's good to put your nose to the grindstone, and it's good to work hard and work smart and have systems to get things done. But relationships, there's a very important factor. Remember, you can know a lot of information, you can have a lot of skills, but if people don't remember you or think that you can contribute to the team, your likelihood of getting into that school, place, or job is very low.
Yeah. And even commenting on that too, and I'll say this because I've worked with a lot of Georgia Tech students, and even with my industry, whether it's like as colleagues or people I've met who have worked for other companies. And one thing I'll even say, like even with Georgia Tech students, I mean, let's be real, like if we're being straight, like one thing that I always joke about, my wife as well went to Georgia Tech, and we always joke about this sometimes when we graduated. We're like, oh, Georgia Tech is such a like bubble or leveler, because you get out quickly, you realize that like, oh shit, like, excuse me, people don't think about things practically, analytically. But at the same time, the other side of that coin is that I've noticed that a lot of Georgia Tech students aren't well equipped in the EQ department of emotional intelligence. And I want to say emotional intelligence is very important too in relationships, and not just in like being smart and contributing value, but knowing how is most effective to contribute that value. And because let's be real, one of the biggest things.
Let's keep it real.
Yeah. One of the biggest things.
Let's go down.
But nobody wants to work with a smart ass. Like nobody wants to work with someone. Nobody wants to work with someone who feels like they know everything and like always wants to come. And I've seen that from. Maybe I shouldn't say Georgia Tech specifically because I don't want to pinpoint any scapegoats.
No. You speak your mind, bro. Speak your mind.
The point is like for a lot of people that I've met, and especially from other top ranked schools, I've seen that there is that aspect that where they are known to be smart and they are known to be knowledgeable, but they still struggle being an effective value adding contributor to a team because they fail in that EQ aspect of understanding that like it's not just important to know, it's not just important to have the knowledge, but it's also very important to have influence, and I call it influence over people, especially key stakeholders, to ensure that your knowledge is listened to, or to ensure that, in fact, not just that but when there comes a question on the team about desiring an answer to something, you're quickly called upon because they know that you're not just knowledgeable, but you're also a team player. Yeah. It's important to be a team because there are people that know stuff, but people are like, oh gosh, like I don't want to. Even though I know he or she knows the answer, but I don't want to involve or loop them in because either they have a stench of condescension, they're not very, it's not just knowing, but also being brief in how you communicate that knowledge. So there's several layers to it. And for me, the biggest thing I'll say, even working in corporate, was also building on that EQ aspect to understand not just knowing and having the knowledge, but also learning how to work with a team and communicate that. So I can also be a key player and also have influence on my team members, business unit leaders, managers, and so on. So.
Yeah, I agree with you, David, and I'm glad you're speaking your mind and keeping it real. Yeah, you have to know how you're impacting. It's important that you bring up another key point. Many times people make the point that you should not focus too much on how people perceive you, but the reality is perceptions do matter.
Oh, absolutely. What?
Perceptions matter, and how you treat people and how people perceive you and how you're interacting with people relationally, how you make people feel. Maya Angelou talks about people won't always remember what you say, but they'll remember how you make them feel. So if people feel intimidated by you or feel welcomed by you, that's one of the reasons why one of the things that's always emphasized in my family is don't cast judgment on people, making sure you operate with an understanding mindset, a compassionate mindset, a mindset that gives people grace, if you will, and allows them to have the opportunity to learn from their mistakes. That's something that we always see in the hard technical fields. Like people are quick to make a mistake, okay, bye, that type of thing. But you have to give people the opportunity to learn from their mistakes, and I hold them accountable for what they're supposed to do. So I agree with you, David. That's very important. And then how have you exhibited vision and teamwork in your craft or in your workspace? How do you keep the vision of the organization in mind?
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep teamwork as a focus or as a goal as you work? How do you do it?
Yeah.
Practical strategies can you give to people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best example I can give is so in my company we tend to focus. So I work on a national account team. So I work on specific brand or customer that I support. And so that customer tends to be a leader when it comes to the all PE sustainable packaging space. So meaning that compared to all the CPGs, they're probably going to be the front leader in terms of like pushing the boundaries on innovative packages, especially in the all PE space. So working on the technical team and being a technical lead on that account, we're quickly essentially seeing trends in the market in terms of like what CPGs are going to be asking for all PE packages, CPGs like consumer packaging companies. So like that could be like your General Mills, Frito-Lay, different food.
School me, you could school me. I'm a chemist, but I'm not really.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine. No, you're fine. No, you're fine.
Let me pull out the notebook. No. I just pull out the notebook.
I don't want to get too specific on CPGs because obviously I work on sensitive products, but that's why I'm trying to speak generally and not get too specific. So
that's fine. That's fine. I'm only pulling your leg.
But going back to what I was saying. So yeah, in my opinion, we essentially are able to develop things and develop solutions. And when we're developing these solutions, we're not just developing solutions in mind for a specific CPG or account that I work on. We're also trying to develop solutions that we know that, hey, this will benefit the broader company. So essentially, this is what I mean about being a value adding team member. This will benefit not just my specific account or my team on my account. This is benefit other accounts and the broader company because we know that this is something that is going to come down the pipeline and request for other CPGs. We work for. So we've seen cases where several innovations that has come out from, we like to dub ourselves a platform team, but several innovations that's come out from our group being implemented by other groups to develop technical solutions and also have wins. So actually recently, not to get too specific, but one other CPG, for instance, is commercializing an all PE stand-up pouch that implements a solution that was developed from our team.
So I have a question. I understand you giving me lots of specifics or giving me lots of general anecdotes, but I mean, like, what practically do you use? Like, you get up in the morning, like, what do you plan things out? How are you able to like really integrate those things into your day? Do you have like a set of notes? Do you use like a program? What can I take away from this that someone else can like use or apply if they're working in a different field? Like how are you able to do all of this?
Yeah.
Do you use like Google Calendar, Notion? What do you use? What do you do?
Yeah. Honestly, I just use notes. So I always take notes so I have notes. I am a very millennial Gen Z worker. So I have work on my phone and laptop. So I'll use notes literally on my Apple Notes regarding to work. And then I also have notes on my laptop as well that I take. And I like to break up. Remember when I spoke about having the key important things laid out from your business unit leader? I like to break them up into smaller goals. So I like to like break them up into like quarterly goals, if I'm being specific. And so in the case of my company, actually, it's a private company. So they're not used to working in the quarterly sprints. And in my previous company that I worked for, it was a public company, and they were very used to working quarterly sprints. And so one thing that I really appreciated working for my previous company is that I've implemented that idea of having quarterly sprints in my project and almost developed my own tasks for each quarter, which will break out into like monthly goals, daily tasks, and things like that. And yes, you have to be very intentional because that is the only way for me I'm able to balance and not let things fall through the cracks. And keep up with what needs to be kept up with. So for instance, if I tell myself that, okay, by March end, I needed to have a solution for this aspect of my development work. If I know there's something holding it up, I'm much more intentional about following up and getting answers because I already have a timeline that this should be done by middle of March or end of March and so on. So I'll say really being intentional about your task, your notes, and also being in constant communication with your uplines. Asking them, is this still important? And that's one thing that I've learned that's a very important conversation. That conversation that you have with your business unit leader or your manager about what is important, I would suggest having that quarterly too, because priorities change within the business. And unless you're intentional about following up to ask, like, is this still a priority for the business unit? You could end up like working on something that you thought was a priority, but by the end of fiscal year wasn't. So have been in that constant communication as well with your uplines. You don't want to operate in a vacuum. You want to make sure that your work is visible and you have that communication, like, is this still a priority? Because I want to make sure I'm working on stuff that's a priority for the business unit. So
I have a question for you. Like, what about someone who is trying to like develop confidence to have that conversation with the leader? What tips would you give them? What advice would you give to someone who's like recently started a job at a company or some type of organization, and they need to have that conversation? What steps would you recommend, or what advice would you give to someone who's trying to have that conversation, who wants to the conversation, who's new to the company?
I think it's always important to just start simple. It could be something as simple like, hey, I would love to grab lunch to get to learn more about you. And sometimes it's like, I'll say the best conversations are the ones where you let the people talk. So it could be as simple as taking a business leader out for lunch. And, so I've also do podcasts and I host. So that's why I say, it's great. Good. So I'll say taking them out for lunch and asking a simple question like, hey, how they start their career. There's nothing people love more than talking about how they start their career, because they really get to like walk through like, hey, walk me through your career, and like, be intentional too, but like say, hey, part of the reasons why I had this conversation is because I'm trying to get to know you more. And I feel like, it's always important to build relationships. Tell them like you're intentional about building relationships. And also I would advise to say, especially if it's your business unit leader that you're connecting with, I'll say, I also would like to, build credibility and establish myself as a value contributing team member. That's bold, but it's also effective. I have never, because I mean, if I think about it, it's the only way you would be mad at a team member of yours coming to like engage with you and be intentional, like, hey, I'm seeking to be a value contributing team member. I would love to know what's a priority for the business unit to see how I can begin to contribute value. Like there's nothing people love more than seeing people taking initiative. And that leaves a very good, especially if you're starting off in a new company, it leaves a very good impression. Exactly. That's the word I was just keeping in mind. It leaves a very good impression on the person, because like, okay, this is someone that's not afraid to step up and ask for like, hey, how can I be a value contributing member? The only thing I'll say is like, if your business unit leader is above your direct manager, so that means it's a skip level. So for instance, in my case, the business unit leader, the director of account, it sort of has like my manager has a dotted line to her. It's always important to also like have that conversation with your manager first and be like, hey, I would love to take our business unit out to lunch. I just want to make sure that's okay with you. I'd like to engage with them. I'd like them know because, right. And if there is going to be any work delegated from your business unit leader, just again, another advice is make sure you're also intentional, but like, hey, can we loop this through my manager? Because you want to also make sure you give your manager that respect, because your manager ideally is the person that's supposed to prioritize your work for you. But there's nothing wrong with, I call it skip level meetings, building that relationship if needed. It builds credibility with them, but also you're also giving your manager that respect and communication, like, hey, I'm going to take this business leader out for lunch. Is that okay? And again, I promise you, and this is the last one I'll say, if you can, it's not compulsory, pay for the lunch. It's one of the funniest joke I learned in my previous company when I worked in Simpsonville, South Carolina. I worked in a plant. So when I worked in manufacturing operations, which I think was the toughest job I ever had. He told me, something I've learned, David? He made a joke to me. He said, no one forgets the person that paid for their lunch. When it was like, I was asking like, hey, how do I build credibility with the operators and the people? Because at the same time, I was learning that like, it's not just enough to know. And that's especially when I spoke earlier about trying to find ways to build influence with people. It wasn't really just corporate. That is important in a corporate or R&D or a corporate setting, but it's even more important in manufacturing, because you got to build credibility with the operators and the people. Anybody who's worked in manufacturing knows exactly what I'm talking about. So he just gave me the advice, buy him lunch. And I took that with me even through when I moved to a company, like, hey, ask the business unit leader out for lunch and buy him lunch. And they're almost gonna be surprised, because the expectation is that they will buy you lunch. But I say, no, I asked for your time. I would love to buy your lunch. And that leaves another impression, trust me.
Yeah. And if we were in person, I would buy you lunch too. But we're not. If we were in person, I would buy you lunch as well. But we're not in person, so we have to wait for that to take place. But yeah, David, man, as we wrap up, what advice would you give to someone who's recently starting college, who's interested in chemical engineering, and is probably at an engineering school or some type of science tech school? What advice would you give them as like one of the key things to hone in on? Like if you had to give it like in 2 sentences, what advice would you give them?
Have a good study group. my freshman and sophomore year, I didn't really study much with study groups. And I also personally, because I also initially I like studying on my own. In fact, I'll be frank, and I hope this doesn't come up the wrong way. I felt like most times studying with people held me back, and so I rather study.
Speak your mind, speak your truth.
I mean, I'm just being honest. But one thing I learned in my junior year and senior year that really helped, and of course, you probably heard this before, is that even if you enjoy studying on your own, studying with study groups, one, of course, make sure it's people you enjoy spending time with. So I had like a very solid friend group.
Yeah, I remember.
Like chemical engineering. Yeah, you remember. So Handel, all the people. So yep, very solid friend group, all super pretty tight. And then but in my opinion, I'll say if you're able to also like communicate effectively your thoughts or whatever you learned to the point where someone else can understand them too, it can also help solidify and cement. And I feel like doing that in my junior and senior year also really helped. So I'll say like, yes, having a study group can really make a difference. It can make all the difference really. And that goes back to relationships and being a value adding team member, because also in study groups, even though you're not the person teaching or doing the tutoring, you can be the person that's organizing, you can be the person that's intentional and following up a group. So I remember one lady, Yasmin, and shout out to Yasmin, she was one of my good friends as well from college. She was always the person that's like, okay guys, we're studying at this time in Clough, and she's reserved and booked the room. Or if we need to order food, we order food. So like we're studying in the Ford building, which is the chemical engineering building, and we're gonna be there in the dungeon at this time. And so like sometimes even if you're just simply the person that's always making sure that the group is organized and there and has the study guides and everything, that is being a value adding team member. And I always remember Yasmin for doing that, because I'm like, oh dang, like it's always cool to have her in the study group because she just sets everything up, and all we basically have to do is just show up.
Man, but yeah, David, it was so good to have you on the podcast. Thanks again for joining me.
Purpose of these episodes not at all for advice or medical suggestions. These are aimed to provide support to peer pharmacists in training in educational and intellectually stimulating ways. Again, these are not at all for medical advice or medical suggestions. Please see your local board and state-certified health professional. The views of this podcast represent those of my guests and I.
Thanks for listening to the podcast series The New Student Pharmacist, where we discuss chemistry and pharmacy, as well as leaders in pharmacy careers, community, and chemistry and pharmacy research. We encourage you to support the work we are doing and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts by subscribing for free. We are so glad that you were able to tune in today. Note: the views on the podcast represent those of my guest, and I take care and all the best.